guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to a palette ranking video for palette week. Today we're going to be ranking my entire Colourpop palette collection. I do have 19 palettes currently in my collection. I feel like up until the last like 7 or 8 months, I really did not have a very large Colourpop palette collection. I feel like the thought of just like waiting, because Colourpop takes a long time to ship, waiting for the palettes like just always just seemed like too much for me. And then also like having to order every single week to get all the new releases, because Colourpop releases a new palette at least every week. It just felt like a lot for me. But I just have not been able to deny the releases lately and just really have been interested in most of them. They just released a couple of new ones too that I'm interested in, and one of them is available at Ulta. I'm like, oh, I need to stop because I need to just rein it in my palette purchases. But I do have 19 Colourpop palettes to rank for you guys today, so if you're interested in seeing how I would rank all of my Colourpop palettes, stay tuned. First, if you have yet to subscribe to my channel and you like project painting content, palette themed content, or you just like to chit chat about makeup, I would love if you'd consider subscribing before moving on. And other than that, let's get into the video. Okay, you guys, I really only own 2 palettes from Colourpop that I'm just like not really about. And then everything else was pretty hard for me to rank. But coming in dead last at number 19 is this one. This is the Colourpop Hello Kitty and Friends Snow Much Fun palette. This I did not need at all, but when the Yoda palette became available on Ulta, this palette was there and I just was in the mood to purchase. It was like December 2020 and I was like, yeah, I definitely need this. I'm not even a Hello Kitty fan, so it like didn't even speak to me on that level. This is what this palette looks like. I don't know if I'll have time to insert swatch clips. If I do, like, congratulations, way to go, Steph. If I don't, I apologize. Maybe one day I'll get my life together and be like a good YouTuber who includes like B-roll footage of swatches. But there are like 3 shadows that have like that micro glitter, and I felt like the actual shimmer shades were a little bit chunky. The color story, when I purchased it, I knew like just wasn't really my jam, but the color story just really isn't my jam. And I used this palette to review it. I maybe used it 5 times. And then I was just kind of over it, and I have it set aside knowing eventually I'm going to declutter this. I'll probably I'll donate this to Zoe's salon. Zoe's my daughter and she has a salon in my office now, so I will donate it to her makeup office. I need more lip gloss. Okay. The next palette I had such high hopes for. I was so excited about, and I just shouldn't have bought this because I have these colors already in my collection. I don't know why I felt like I needed this. I bought into like the nostalgia of this. It's the Colourpop Malibu Barbie palette. Like immediately when I saw the promo photos of this, I did a double take. It's something about the bright pops of color, and this isn't bad quality. It's just okay. I will say like the neutral mattes I was not that impressed with. I do think the vibrant shades actually perform really well, but I just feel like this is something that if I reach for this in my collection, I'll be reaching for it because I feel obligated to, and I could be reaching for something else in my collection that I like so much more than this. My daughter immediately when I got this was like, I want that. So I was like, this is something perfect to donate to Zoe's salon. So this was fine. It just, you know, not my favorite. Next up is a palette that I really loved at one point, but I have been working on so many shades throughout my Pan Those eyeshadows that I feel like I'm just sick of this palette. And everything from here on, like I do really like and enjoy, but I had to rank my Baby Got Peach palette next. This would be number 17. I have 3 pans in here, one of them being the glitter. And I really like the shimmers in here. I think the shimmers are beautiful, but I'm kind of just sick of this palette. I think I'm going to end up depotting the shades that I like from this palette and then getting rid of the rest, just because I feel like this is something that I do really like reaching into this for a handful of the shades, but for the most part, I feel like this is just a waste of space in my collection. So this would be my number 17, I'm sorry. Coming in at number 16, again, this one is kind of a color story thing for me. This is my Colourpop She's Got Solstice palette. I love this palette for these 3 shades right here, especially this Super Shock shadow in here. And then I also love this green down here. But the like pink shades just are not my favorite. I've been into pinks lately, but more of like a true pink rather than the pinks in here, and I just don't get a ton of use out of this palette. Like as I was looking through, I was like, okay, like what would I reach for over, you know, everything else to try and rank these? It was pretty hard for me to kind of think through how to rank these. I love the Super Shock Shadow, and I have created looks with this palette that I love, but this I think would be my number 16. I'm gonna put the numbers here because I'm gonna forget as we go. Next up, this one is newer to my collection, and in terms of like how often will I use this, probably not that much, but this is so beautiful. So this is the Colourpop On Cloud Blue palette. Blues, not really my thing, and I knew that when I purchased this, but I wanted blues in my collection for when I felt like doing blues. Last year I was super into the greens, and don't get me wrong, I'm still into the greens, but I've had a thing for blues as well. So that is why I felt like I needed this palette, and I love this palette for blue looks, obviously. But it is just a blue palette. Obviously, you're going to be a little bit limited if you're just reaching into this in terms of like how many looks you can create. Still a beautiful palette, like would recommend if you're looking for a blue palette to add to your collection, but just not something I'm going to be reaching for on a day-to-day basis. And then speaking of monotone, just like one color, monotone? What is monotone? No. Monochromatic. Duh. Palettes, next up would be my Cloud Spun palette, which is the pink palette. I've been really into pinks, so I felt like I had to have this palette, and I do think that this one is pretty when I do want to do pink looks. I really like this more for the shimmers rather than the mattes, just because like this isn't my favorite pink shade. Yes, I've used this a few times, but I'm not reaching for hot pinks all that often. This just kind of goes back to like, I'm not reaching for this on a day-to-day basis, but when I want a pink look, I've dipped into this many times, and I do think it's really pretty. Next up, I feel like I'm going to get a little bit of hate for this, but it is the Colourpop Raw Beauty Christie at Forest Sight palette. And really the only reason this one's kind of ranking middle of the road for me is just because I prefer this palette for this top row and the two shimmers. I'm not reaching into the bottom row all that often, and then also just not this magenta shade all that often either. It just really comes down to personal preference, and I get really intimidated by these dark blue and green shades. So, oh, I felt like it looked like the leaf was like coming in front of my head from my plant back there. Anyway. Again, it just really comes down to personal preference for this one. I still really enjoy this palette, and I think it's beautiful quality. I think the color story is beautiful. I just reach for my other Colourpop palettes more than I reach for this one. And then coming up next is the Colourpop Mandalorian palette. This is such a cute palette. I just love the packaging, love the little Yoda in here. I think it's absolutely adorable. And I really enjoy the shimmers in here. Every shimmer I really enjoy, and I also like the two neutral brown shades. These three shades are not my favorite. I think these two are a little bit, like this one, I just was not in love with the way that this actually shows up on the eyes. This one is one of the mattes with micro glitter, which actually really doesn't bother me. I just don't really love the tone of this. And this one was just a little bit more difficult to work with. But if I'm looking for a green look, this is an easy palette for me to reach into, and I do really enjoy this one. Coming in at number 11, I have the Colourpop Sweet Talk palette. I think this is a beautiful palette, especially if you like the pinks and the corals, and I think this is so pretty for spring and summer. I've really been enjoying this. I waited so long to pick this up, and I'm so glad that I finally did decide to pick this up. I didn't realize there were two pressed glitters in this palette, so that's not my most favorite, but I still really enjoy this palette. I love this Super Shock shade, and I really actually enjoy all of the matte shades in here. So this would be my number 11. Coming in at number 10, I have this Colourpop Quad. This is the Sparkler Quad. This is really good quality. Like, it's just a solid quad. If you want an affordable quad, I really recommend the Colourpop ones. I have two more that I'm gonna be talking about. I have these shades in other palettes, so I kind of wanted to rank other things above this, but if you just want like a brown palette, the only thing I will say is usually I have to dip in to like a lighter transition shade with this palette, but it's a solid quad, especially if you want something like sultry for a night out on the town. I do really enjoy this. And then coming in at number 9, I have another quad. This is the Sorbet Quad. Mine did come with a shattered shade, and then I repressed it, but I was super messy with repressing, so it looks gross down here, but it's just because some of this sparkly shade got down here anyway. This is also really beautiful if you like mauve tone looks. I love the shimmers in here. The shimmers are so foiled. They're outstanding if you like a really intense metallic shimmer. So, been a huge fan of that. And then coming in at number 8, I have the Colourpop That's Tote palette. I feel like this is another unpopular opinion. I feel like so many people loved this palette, and while I still think it's a good palette, I did think that the matte shades were a little bit powdery, more powdery than I expected, and also most of them read very similar on the eyes. I wish there was a little bit more range in the matte shadows. I love the shimmers in this, like outstanding. I reach into this many times just for the shimmers. I think it's beautiful. So that is my thought on the That's Tote palette. Then up next, I have the Colourpop Making Mauves palette, and I freaking adore this palette for mauve tone looks. I'm gonna get so much use out of this in the fall and winter when I'm just all about the mauve tones. These 3 shimmers, like, I'm drooling. They are so beautiful. I think if you like mauves, like, I would highly recommend this palette. Obviously, it is another pretty monochromatic palette, so you're not gonna get a super wide range of looks out of this. But if you like yourself some good mauve looks, I mean, this one is so beautiful. Coming in at number 6, I have the Colourpop Going Coconuts palette. This is a really nice palette if you're just looking for neutral everyday browns. Again, I love the shimmers in this palette, and I really do enjoy the mattes in this as well. This is one of my favorite shades if I want just like a one and done in your crease matte shade. I think it's beautiful. This is something that I feel like if I'm going just like to my mom's overnight, I'll take this with me just because it's so easy to work with. It's like that sweatpants palette. I feel like I've said that a lot on my channel lately, where it's just like, it's always got your back, super comfortable, very easy to use. If I'm running late for work, I'll reach into this palette because it's just so easy to create a quick look and just be done with it. Coming in at number 4, I have my Colourpop Little Ray of Sunshine palette. This is another one I am so excited to reach into in the fall time. This is an all matte palette, and I think every shade in here performs so beautifully. They blend so nicely together. I love the like mustard tones in this, and it's just, this is definitely a favorite. Again, my basically 1 through 10, so hard to rank, but so excited for this one for the fall time. I am someone who loves a shimmer though. That's why this one ranked a little bit lower. Like, it is very rare that I do an all matte look, so that's why I had to rank that one right there. Coming in at number 4, I have my last quad. This is the Creamsicle Quad by Colourpop, and I freaking love this. Like, I can create a full look with this and just be done, and I have gotten so many compliments. I wear this to work all of the time. Always get compliments when I wear this to work. Shimmers in here are just absolutely beautiful. They are outstanding if you like a beautiful, like, intense foiled shade. So I really do recommend the quads by Colourpop. I was really impressed by them. Coming in at number 3, I have the Colourpop Wild Child palette. I am obsessed with this for like a sultry, smoky brown eye. This is so beautiful. And what I love about this one too is the pressed glitter is not as chunky as some of the other pressed glitters. It sticks a lot better, and it's so freaking beautiful. Just this whole palette just like makes my mouth water. I love this one so much. So easy to use, and I just feel like they did a really nice job of choosing like the matte shades and the shimmer shades. I love the entire color story, so that is highly, highly recommended. Coming in at number 2 is my Colourpop Dream Street palette. Even though I know you can't get this in anymore, this has just been a favorite of mine for so long. Every single shimmer in this, with the exception of the blue, I don't get a ton of use out of. One of my favorite shimmers in my entire collection. I love the rose gold shimmers, the champagne shimmer. Again, this is one of my favorite matte shades if I want just a one and done matte in the crease. I reach into this quite a bit too. This is just such a tried and true staple favorite. Has been such a favorite in my collection for so long. I still had to give it the number 2 spot, even though I know you can't get it anymore. And then coming in at number 1, I have the Colourpop Lemon Cello palette. I was a huge fan of this, and I feel like not everybody loved this one, but from the moment I started using this, I couldn't put this down. I got this, I think, I think 2 days before, we decided to take like a last minute trip to the Black Hills, South Dakota. And this is what I brought with me for that trip. I was like, I need to have this. And I was so glad that I did. I never felt like I was limited in what looks I wanted to create. I think there's such a good range of shimmers in this palette, but I also like the range of mattes. I think they perform like every other Colourpop palette. I know sometimes it's a little bit hit and miss with the Colourpop formula, but I feel like this is the good Colourpop formula. And I was super impressed by this one. I'm so happy to have this in my collection. This gives me like happy summertime vibes as well. But I also feel like this one could easily take me into the fall with some of, again, like the mustard shades. And I love this green shade as well. So yeah, those are all of my 19 Colourpop palettes and how I personally would rank them. I would love to know, what are some of your favorite Colourpop palettes that you've tried, your least favorite? Are there any that I don't have in my collection that I need to pick up on my next Colourpop purchase? I would love to know. I also would love to know, have you guys picked up any of the recent Colourpop releases? What is the one that I'm super interested in? Let me look it up. Oh, the Cabana Club. And also the other one that they just released that kind of looks the same, the, what is it? Lush Life. Oh, with that lime green. It looks so freaking pretty. I feel like I need that. I really do. I wasn't gonna get, really want that. Anyway, that is gonna wrap it up for today's video. I would love to know, what are your favorite Colourpop palettes? Like I said, I'm losing my train of thought. Anyway. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to watch today's video and for supporting my channel as you always do. I love you guys so much, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye!